while I start presenting, let me introduce myself just very briefly. So first of all, thanks for inviting me for CodeCamp in Romania. I heard a lot about the event, never presented here, and I'm really glad that I have a chance to do that today. And actually, myself, I used to be a developer in the Delphi and C++ times, very long time ago. My master's work was actually when I was building my first neural net, when it was still far from being popular, 18 years ago, I think now. But then I changed to kind of business development, then I changed to marketing, and most recently to product marketing. Right now I'm covering Central and Eastern Europe region in Microsoft, doing product marketing for artificial intelligence. So my role is actually a very interesting position to be in, because I'm really kind of connecting the customer cases and sellers and technical people with the product team, which has been developing the products, trying to find the gaps, trying to really catch up with what's missing, or lending the most powerful research we have into the applied systems. And that's what I would like to build my story about, is how those fundamental research changes, what I see being here in this position, from my perspective, what is really important in those changes which are happening, and how it impacts the real life customer applications. And let me begin with this, I think, fun picture. I don't know how many of you seen this picture. This is actually pretty old picture showing some kind of analytics. And I love it because the questions they were asking were, of course, very fun and not super probably relevant. But in my case, I asked myself a question like, are the models and their impact getting better? And I just illustrate this with this picture, that like how the nut holes change, because that's not exactly the right question, right? Because we don't really, or in real life, it's not so important whether your model performs 0.5% better or not. In our real life examples, customers come and say, how can I solve this problem with your tools? How can I do in this time period and with this cost? And that's kind of, but the question is asked, and let me build my presentation around it pretty much. So what I see is really changing, and whether the models are getting better, I can see when I, for example, join or sign in into my LinkedIn page every morning. And I see here that, for example, this is a post from today. Natural speech system from Microsoft is actually been advanced even further. And there is this paper published where we were able to actually generate even more naturally sounding text. And you can see that the comment here is like, there is no significant difference anymore to human recordings when we generate speech. And I will actually try to open now even this link just to let you hear in this particular article, for example, what are those modern systems, and why it's so important that their performance is getting better. So let me play it, and please somehow give me a hint if you don't hear the sound. But this is, for example, the text which has been pronounced by a human.
Maltby and Company would issue warrants on them deliverable to the importer, and the goods were then passed to...
And this is what we are able to achieve if we generate speech from the same text.
Maltby and Company would issue warrants on them deliverable to the importer, and the goods were then passed to be stored in neighboring warehouses. Maltby and Company would...
So I hope this was heard, and it's actually impressive and amazing at the same time, and scary, because first of all, yes, we now can do things which pretty much appear and the same quality as humans would do that. But at the same time, this raises a lot of questions. Of course, like tomorrow, for example, when I receive a call from somebody who sounds like my brother or my father, is it really him, or is it my wife calling me, or is it a machine-generated speech? So those are kind of challenges which are appearing with those systems. We'll talk about this a little bit more, but the power of those systems definitely grows. There are other considerations like, okay, power of the system grows, but do they really reach more general knowledge, more general concepts? And in this regard, there are, of course, some developments, like, for example, this common sense Q&A human parity vs Microsoft research reached pretty recently. There was this new system which was answering those common sense questions in the test, and it was really on the level of the human answer. So very, very close to what the humans would answer. But at the same time, of course, we all understand it is still far from, the AI is still, models are still very far from really extracting the concepts, the knowledge, the general concepts from the knowledge. Which brings me to another half joke, but this is a real post made by one of my contacts on LinkedIn, and he actually got access to this Open AI system and started chatting with the bot and suggested to the bot to generate a joke and then actually exchange jokes. So this person generated the joke and the GPT-3 generated the joke. And then he posted those jokes on LinkedIn and asked people to vote, like whose joke was more funny. And you can see that GPT was 2 times funnier in joking than the human. So again, half joke, half reality, but it is what it is. Sometimes those machines can appear funnier, better than what humans would do, even in creative tasks. But back to the real life applications, I wanted to show you some things which language and speech systems are capable today. And one of the examples, again, I'll go maybe to my browser and just type this link here, which is connectedpapers.com. So what this system allows, it uses behind a very large model, which allows us to search, or it indexed, let's say, all the papers, not all, but the papers from available sources with research which is related to AI or some other topics. And in this case, we can search for the scientific papers by natural language. Let's say I love this paper, which is called Attention is All You Need. Yeah, you can see that I can find it. But now it's not just a search. What it does, it actually indexed all of those papers which are in this, which are available actually online. And you can see we have this paper. We can go and look at it. We can also see what are the connected papers. For example, we can see by the size here, we see the influence of this topic, or we can see how many times this paper was referenced. So we can see that another very, very much influential paper was about the bird. Here we can open this paper, or we can look at the other papers which were impacted by this particular paper. So very powerful scenarios are enabled to really search through the knowledge. And actually the same example, the same approach with when the vaccines are being developed or some cures have been developed for different diseases. Now there is another database which allows you to search scientific papers in different medical research terms. So that's the power of those models. Now, what's empowering those powerful scenarios is actually the growth of super, super large models. And I'll mention here just several of them. It's not the full list, of course, but this is one of the graphs I screenshotted from, again, one of the posts, which just shows different models, including the Megatron Turing NLG, our Microsoft model, huge one, which actually we trained for one task or for several tasks, but then we realized that this model performs as state-of-the-art in many other tasks. So that's a very interesting finding for myself, is also that those huge models, of course, they're very far from being general conscious yet, but they can generalize pretty well, because this model now can perform state-of-the-art or close to state-of-the-art in completion prediction, reading comprehension, common sense reasoning, natural language inferencing queries, etc., and many different tasks. And something like that has been seen with translation models as well. So interesting approach in the industry is the bigger the model, the more capabilities it is actually usually capable to perform. And one of the examples is, again, our competitor company, a very large one, recently published some model which can, play games or complete words or generate text or do all kinds of crazy tasks together. Now, one of the examples of, there is Microsoft, there are other big companies, very large companies who can really build those huge models, but can usual, regular organizations also get use of that breakthrough which happened in the, let's say, NLP speech or other technologies or multimodal models? And the answer is yes, because not just models develop, not just the huge power of cloud is growing further, but also, this is an example from Hungary, the University of Pécs. they wanted to train the model for Hungarian language, and they have been able to do that with us, like from idea to investigation to architecture to deployment in several months. And the actual training was a very short period because they were able to leverage the deep speed library optimization for parallel training. And the whole cost of this model training for Hungarian language took them something like less than $2,000. So a very powerful scenarios enabled by those optimization techniques, modern algorithms, as well as the cloud resources, because previously to do that, they would have to buy a very large computer. And in this case, they were able just to do this with the cloud resources. Now, I talked a lot about speech and NLP because that's one of the topics where every day something new is happening. But there are many other areas. Of course, there are developments in generative networks, there are developments in Azure or in machine learning in general, in low-code AI systems. That's where I think a lot of breakthrough is happening, but it's not yet maybe that broadly adopted, which will change, I think. So in the next year or two, the ability to do your machine learning for computer vision, for speech, for text, for predictions, right from your, let's say, CRM system, right from your BI system, from within your application will be growing more and more without the need to learn data science or machine learning models development. And multimodal architecture is something which I referenced today already, but I'll stop a little bit more on that. For example, for those of you who are, let's say, not familiar or interested in this topic, what actually happens usually is we train model in one domain, right? So we would train a model on the images. And with multimodal models, we do different. So we can, for example, train the language model based on the text. For example, we can give it a text that a dog is sitting on a couch. Then we can give the same model through object detector system. We can give the same model the image, like the sequence of dots. And then we can train a model which would recognize actually in the joint space of dots and text, the concept of the dog on the couch and the relation that it's sitting. And then in the end, we get those multimodal models which can perform different tasks, images and text. And usually what we see also, it starts to perform better in one task if it was trained in different modalities, because probably it can explore, it can define the more general concepts based on that and relations. Now, what is a very applied problem, I would say, is how this global or fundamental research is landing in real life systems. And that's where I love to look at recent developments in our multi-language models. For example, multilingual models like that Z-code. So this is the concept where we don't train the model for each language. And by the way, the chart here is very small. I apologize, on your screen you probably cannot see that. But what it shows is different languages on the x-axis, and then the performance increase of this model compared to the standard, let's say, used before in Microsoft Translator system. And you can see that like relatively here, it's like 15%, up to 15, 16% improvement in model performance across languages. And now what it is, like what's that code, why it's important, is because previously in Microsoft, we had, me, for example, I work in a region where we have 30 plus countries, so like around 30 languages, right? And for each languages, previously, we had to implement the language model, support that model, update that model, fine-tune that model, retrain that model if something changes, if we have new approach, etc. And we had this huge zoo of models for different languages, which had different even architectures sometimes. And now with Z-code, there is an approach where you can take a multi-lingual model and train it at once in all the languages. So huge benefit, because first of all, this is one structure trained on many languages. Secondly, when something changes, it actually can change across, so we can retrain and fine-tune across languages. And third is that we can reuse most of the concepts learned in one language for the next language. So the performance and the time to train in another language decreases exponentially, actually. So why it's possible is because there was a new approach which enabled us to actually group the languages which are similar in structure and then train submodel for them, then take another, let's say, Arabic languages and train them, and then combine this in one combined model. And not just that, but this model is so huge now. How do you do inference? How do you make sure that it's not so expensive to run? And here is another approach which has been implemented when there is an intellectual system which selects which part of the model to be activated for this language. So if you run it in the query in Czech language, for example, only the part of the model will be used for the inference for this model. So huge benefits of those models, which allow us also to change how we do things like translation, and unified language model is another topic which I will cover later today. So just a time check, I think I have something like 20 minutes to go. And one of the examples is how these powerful models, huge models, can empower organizations to do more is what we can do with Open AI. And with Open AI, you probably heard about GitHub Copilot or other Copilot model implementations, which allow you to write your text, let's say, like in this GIF on my screen. I don't know if it's large enough to see, but here the developer writes what he wants to achieve or she wants to achieve, and then the code is being generated. And how it works is actually we fed the GitHub code and Stack Overflow queries and all kind of knowledge we have in the web, which is public, not of course the closed repos. And we were able to extract for this particular problem based on the language understanding in OpenAI, understand what is needed, what the person is trying to achieve, and then extract what are those most used code pieces which can implement this kind of functionality. And then you can, of course, fine-tune that for your particular task. And this is being deployed in production already. For example, in Power BI, in Power Automate, you can probably see here again, if it's too small, the person is typing in the window that I want to see a rolling 10 days average, whatever, like the query in natural language, then presses submit, and they get the code in DAX, in this case, in Power BI query language, which is given the result which they wanted to achieve or the visual which they wanted to build. So again, this is not yet so broadly adopted, but you can use that in preview today. And I think in the next couple of years, this will be the thing, this low code and really automated natural, let's say, ways of generating or doing tasks or generating code supported by those large models. Now, what actually happens with, let's say, our portfolio? Because in Microsoft, we are just a technology company. We can provide the platform for you, for developers, for data scientists, for machine learning engineers to achieve your goals. But in our platform, which is shown here on the screen, a lot of changes are happening actually because of those fundamental changes happening due to the research. So in our portfolio, we have Azure Machine Learning, which is a platform to develop, deploy models, and actually automate the whole model's lifecycle. Then we have the cognitive services layer, which is for speech, language, vision, decision, and OpenAI is part of that right now. And then there are applied services, which are higher level services like, for example, forms recognizer or video indexer tool, which allows us to analyze video and get insights, etc. Now, what was the slide if I would show it 2 years ago? For my region, for Central and Eastern Europe, for us, and actually for Romania, I believe as well, in Microsoft portfolio, this would be the question marks because, hey, language service didn't support Romanian, forms recognizer did not support this local language, speech or OCR didn't support those languages. And now with all those new models, in last pretty much year and a half, the whole Azure platform was rebuilt on the new generation of models, which now allows most of the even smaller languages support in CE, like Ukrainian or Czech or Romanian, to be supported in all those services. And now this whole platform pretty much is in your hands. So if you are a developer who is working with the APIs, which are, and I will show some of them, which enable you to use AI models, pre-built or fine-tuned, pre-built, customizable AI models, you are enabled now. Or if you want to develop your machine learning from scratch with data scientists, with machine learning training and machine learning lifecycle, you can do that as well with Azure Machine Learning. Now let me share also some of the announcements which were made a couple of weeks ago, I think 10 days ago, on Microsoft Build. This is a huge developer conference, and we have announced some very important, I think, things which will also impact the thinking of how I see what the industry will deliver for you as a developers or for your organization. So there are several things. One of them was Meta partnership. So Meta is now using Azure for their research and for training. For example, they trained this, again, huge language model now, which is performing extremely well in different tasks like summarization, etc. And they trained it on Azure already. And moreover, there will be PyTorch accelerator. So jointly with Meta, we'll have much more PyTorch code systems and direct deployment options available for Azure with PyTorch. Another partnership which has been announced is Hugging Face, and I'm super passionate about that because Hugging Face is really democratizing the transformer models for any developer pretty much. And now it's much easier to take Hugging Face models and deploy them into Azure Machine Learning with pretty much several clicks on the managed endpoints. There are other announcements, like, for example, most powerful AMD's GPUs together with NVIDIA GPUs are now available in Azure, but those, I think, are the most exciting ones. And why I'm showing that is because, again, I think there will be more and more effort across companies to get use of what's available in fundamental research in those global cloud models and give it into the hands of developers like us, like you, maybe, who develop their models and don't need to rebuild these huge models themselves, because you will probably never be able to do that, but just to reuse what's available out there and save time and effort for that. Now, some other announcements from Build are in other services. You can see I will not go through all of them, but for example, for cognitive services, we also introduced a lot of new features in like text classification, summarization, etc. And by the way, maybe I'll just show some of them to you, which enable now, again, in our local CEU languages to be able to do that pretty much common task of summarization, entity recognition, language understanding, or translation across languages. And let me show you maybe one of the examples. Too many windows here, apologize. Where is my presentation? Sorry, I lost the point of my presentation, so I'll probably need to reshare that. Yes. So I just wanted to open this link. For example, this is the Language Studio environment. So for most of the AI services available as APIs, we have this studio experience now, which allows you just to try it, right? You're a developer, you are thinking, maybe I need to go to my data science, or you're a data scientist and you want to build this model. Now you want to see what Microsoft has for you already, and you will have this, of course, there is documentation, but there is also this ability to just very fast, very easy to try what's possible with that system. And as an example, I go to this Language Studio, and you can see I can have all of those APIs available for me here, like entity recognition, extract name entities, text classification, which I can use, and then I can customize and fine-tune. And only thing I need is my Azure subscription, so I have mine connected here, and create the cognitive services resource. And when you have that, you can do this on trial account as well, by the way. And when you did this, you can actually start using, and I would like to maybe show you just one to show how you can try it. I will not be able to show you all of them, of course. But this is, for example, a text summarization. And let me go to, I don't know, some website here. Yahoo Finance, for example. Let me take one of the recent, how this system actually summarizes that article for us. Let me open any article here. My internet is so slow for some reason. So let me then copy paste this text. Of course, you can do this practically just to send this text via an API. But let me just copy paste in this case into the test environment. Huge article, something is happening with the Fed, right? But I need to read all those 2 pages of understand what's happening. So let me try to summarize that with this algorithm. And again, the same you can call from your code. Just maybe if you have submit this query and get the response. So in my case, you can see that very concise summary, which says that up until last first plan was clear. They would not raise interest rate more than 0.5%, but in the recent few days, downbeat reports made Fed to change action and suggest raising rates by. So it's a very good summary from my perspective of what happens in that article and what happens in the market. And you can see that instead of having all of that huge amount of text, I can get pretty human result of what the summary is. And that's, again, one of the services. I really encourage you. I will share my presentation with the Language Studio or Speech Studio, which we can try as well. But play with it. Try what's possible with Azure Cognitive Services. It's a pretty easy and exciting thing to try. Now let me show you, as I promised, another thing, which is speech generation. I talked a lot about the language support, for example, and in this case, let me try to build. And by the way, when I go to now it's Speech Studio, not language, it's different APIs here versus the previous page. So you can see that we can do speech to text. So we can talk and recognize speech. We can do vice versa, generate speech from text. We can do custom voice, which is a super powerful and super popular scenario. For example, here in Czech Republic, where I'm located, there is a customer now building a very, let's say, countrywide bot, which will serve all of the citizens with the voice of the talent which they selected. So it will be an actress, which is, and their voice will be in this virtual assistant. Her voice will be the voice of this virtual assistant. But in our case, let's just try with the standard voice. And I talked a lot about language support. Again, let me select, for example, Romanian here. And let's select Romanian. Hello. Apologize. I need to click one more button. All of those demo environments sometimes change, and I forget or have to find now in this new layout what I need to click. So again, let's check how in Romanian can the text be generated, and I'll select one of them. Let it be a female voice. And I actually opened, I don't speak Romanian, so you will judge, but I've opened this, again, new site in Romanian. I hope it says something proper. And I'll just copy paste this text into my system, and now I'll make this neural voice to speak this text for me. And something is not working. Happens sometimes. Maybe I didn't select something here. Romanian email. Let's try again.
Cei doi șefi de stat vor avea discuții legate de sprijinirea Ucrainei și a Republicii Moldovei, dar și despre parteneriatul strategic cu România. Se va aborda.
We can actually even change the rate, the pitch, all the parameters. You can do it programmatically. You can do it in this test environment, but we can
și
change.
Problema aderării țării noastre.
Cei doi șefi de stat vor avea discuții legate de sprijinirea Ucrainei și a Republicii Moldovei.
So you can hear that this is not anymore that kind of metal robotic voice, but it's really natural. And why I'm showing this again, the power of models. Sometimes you can build your own models, but the power of models already available as something pre-built or customizable for you. Sometimes customers come where, as I said, like this voice assistant problem, the customers they had a very big problem with building it, but when they saw what's possible today, they are building it now, and I think so far they are super exciting. So I don't have too much time to show you computer vision tools, and you can again click on the links which are on my in my PowerPoint. But that's one of the examples from Lufthansa how they use computer vision Azure services, for example, to analyze the arrival of the airplane, because for them it's important to understand what's the process, where are the bottlenecks, where the delays happen, because if delay happens, they pay money to the passengers. So in this case, you can see they actually, with accuracy, something like 99 point something, recognize people. And by the way, people are blurred, if you can see. They recognize vehicle, which are doing fuel, and it's classified on fueling, cleaning, luggage, transportation, etc. And in the end, what they can get is this kind of smart dashboard, which shows them how long did every part of this process take, and then they do all kinds of analytics on top of that. Again, another very popular implementation, you can write your own computer vision models, but you can also reuse something like Azure Custom Vision and our solution accelerator, which enables you to automate, for example, the quality inspection. This is the real customer in Poland. They analyze the pills on the production line, and they can remove the pills which are not good quality. Again, I will not go through all of the details of what's possible with computer vision, as I did with speech or language, but really encourage you click, try, and see yourself what is the power of those systems. The same with Forms Recognizer. This system has been updated recently, pretty much a couple of weeks ago as well. Now it supports multi-page tables. It supports structure or layout of the documents extraction. A lot of new features, a lot of new language support. And I'm very excited. This is one of the most demanded service right now, because what people can do, for example, in some of our countries, governments are processing the claims for example, claims related to COVID, some other claims for tax returns, etc., some recognition of IDs, or just the document understanding for some organizations which need to process a lot of documents and extract key value pairs. So again, super powerful services available for you. Now there is, of course, another part of developers which are developing models, machine learning engineers, or data scientists, or using the models as engineers. So for them, we have Azure Machine Learning, of course, all the popular scenarios like demand forecasting, predictive maintenance, fraud detection. We have a lot of cases, even in our region, but this service has been updated as well recently. There are many, many updates. I don't have time to go through them, but some of them I think very exciting. I'll just focus on this lower part here, maybe just to give you or share with you my excitement, because one of the things which has been updated, well, two things maybe. One is the command line interface and MLOps v2, so the whole model lifecycle management got much easier. But the second one is really an automated machine learning developments, which blew my mind, because right now you could do automated machine learning, create your models based on the different techniques of machine learning, so AI creating the models for you. It was available for, let's say, time series and tabular data. So now we announced the preview for also computer vision tasks, as well as natural language processing tasks as well. But not only that, computer vision, natural language, tabular data, you can even now generate the script. So you don't just get the model trained for you, you get the script which shows you how this model been trained. And you can get the script, fine-tune it, change it, and get all kinds of further developments for your model. And I will have to close my presentation because we're on time, but I just wanted to show you this slide. I don't know how many of you saw this chart. This says stop global warming, become a pirate, because these bright analysts who call themselves Church of the Flying Spaghetti, they built this chart which shows that the more or the less pirates are in the seas, the higher is the temperature on Earth. And they said that because pirates have gone, the temperature has grew. Of course, this is only a fun picture, and of course that's not the case. But I think that there is an interesting thought behind that. Yes, there is less pirates because there is a technical advancement. There is a lot of technical revolution impacts on the society, on our planet climate. And then the temperature grows. And that's why I think it's also one of the most important considerations is how we maybe reuse as an industry as much as we can from available things, how we can, and Azure is, by the way, leading the way with how we go carbon neutral by 2030. But there is a lot of approaches which allow us to make training inference more efficient, how we can reuse existing models, how we can actually train the models which use only part of the training resources for them. So that's one of the problems which I think is super exciting. And I had my slide also about AI and sustainability, but I will have to skip because of the time. And I will just close with one slide, which again have a couple of links there. One section of links here is how you can learn more about machine learning in Azure. And we really invite you to look there to learn, reach out to me or to your Microsoft representative if you have a task or a project in mind where we can be useful and we can jointly build something cool. Or the second part here on this slide is how you can try, again, all the different AI services which we have for you. Again, if you are building something next and something exciting, I think you can benefit trying that. With that, I will leave you also with my personal contact. Always happy to chat on anything related to AI, machine learning, and technology. And I will switch back. I actually need to stop presenting here probably. And I will switch back to the session. And I hope I'm still here and everything is still showing up.
Everything is just fine, Dima. Thank you so much for your talk. I mean, your excitement, really caught me into the story. There are a lot of exciting news and a lot of exciting things happening in the AI area. And it looks like also the audience got excited. So, so we've got this message from Konstantina saying that sometimes developers forget how cool their inventions are. And yes, but this is doubled by the responsibility that we care as well. So I very much empathize with your final thought about our mission and what we can do as people working in technology, to help the Earth survive in the end.
Yeah, so, on this comment, if I can still have like 30 seconds on this comment of we forget how cool is that. I mean, it's not just only we forget. I have my story with my kids because one boring evening during the Christmas holidays, we were sitting with my kids and I was like, hey, let me show you how to build a simple model. Like, yeah, father, really? I'm like, let's do this application. And we built in like 15 minutes, a simple custom vision application. We fed the images of our Christmas tree. And we've added images of different Christmas tree toys. And then the system started to respond, and we published it on some mobile link that on my mobile phone, you could take a picture and it would say like green Christmas toy, yellow Christmas toy, things like that. I'm like, hey, how cool is that? And my kids are like, so what? So that's like the new generation. I mean, we don't just forget how cool is that. Believe me, this new generation will just take it for granted. So recognizes speech, generating speech. So what, So I think, and this is bad and good because those people don't see the obstacles. They see that everything is possible with the tools we provide them.
Yeah, definitely. There are many news, a lot of exciting things happening. I'm in particular enthusiastic about what's happening in the automation area, in the ML ops part, because as you mentioned, the technology companies can afford to do it somehow. They manage to retrain the models and everything. But for a normal company, unless you have a very good, very good automation pipelines and so on, you're just in a way playing in the sandbox. And you manage probably once a year to publish a model. But then stuff happens. I mean, concept drift, data drift, whatever, expectations are changing from the clients and so on, and the model is not performing. And unless you have a very short feedback loop and a very short, highly automated life cycle, you usually can't deliver a new version of the model in due time.
Yeah, but I'd say that the topic you just touched on, MLOps, is actually a special one for me now because this concept is getting much more mature, less fractioned. And what we see is the huge customer interest. So you're right, and I think I was very articulate in my presentation that we have so many things already available. Like take it, customize it, use an APIs. But in more than 50% of the cases, customers still develop their custom models because this is their business. This is their thing, their IP, or for some other reasons. And in this case, there is a huge interest because by the time they start to operationalize that, the large enterprises cannot survive without MLOps. And recently we had a session, online session. Everybody's bored of online sessions, but we had one with our Western Europe colleagues on MLOps, and there was 700 people attending this webinar very recently. And I was like people are getting so into this that I think, and we will have more technical workshops for the customers because almost every second customer is interested in MLOps right now. Super hot topic, yeah.
Yeah, brilliant.
And a couple of years from now, people will take that for granted. So that's good.
True.
Yeah. Getting back to the responsibility thing, I know that, I mean, Microsoft addresses the ethics, the AI ethics part in a very special way, I would say, very mature way. Maybe you can share a bit about this. Yeah, if you got the chance
Yeah,
to
of
be
course. I
involved
was
in.
reading the comment here, but yes, for your question, absolutely. It is actually one of the key consideration. I can share with you some of the examples. So one example, and maybe the most actually like strong one, is OpenAI in Azure. So on build, again, 10 days ago, we have introduced that it now goes into preview. Everyone can get access to this service. But this service is so powerful. It can write emails. It can write really looking like a human written stories or messages. It can do whatever conversations, and you won't understand it's not a human. And we really gate this service. Every time you want to have access, yes, you can, but you have to show us your use case, and we will control like that. You don't submit the use case which is harmful. Then there is within OpenAI, there is the feedback loop, which, for example, controls what it generates. So if the system starts to generate something inappropriate or like really just very bad, first of all, the system will not allow this to be generated, let's put it this way. So there is another filter. And secondly, it will give us the signal that we need to fine-tune, retrain, see those malicious maybe queries which happen to the system and update that. But yeah, that's how it happens. And still it's been used by many customers. For example, one of the customers in the US, huge car retailer, they made now a system, and this is my dream system for travel, but they did it for cars now. When there are reviews for the cars, and you have to scroll for every car and like how many horsepowers, what's its reliability, how long, how many years the engine, blah, blah, blah. And they have this database of like millions of reviews. And they run it through OpenAI and give the summarization. So you open this car like Volkswagen Golf, whatever, and you get the summary of what all of the people, not 10 people or 100, all of the people are saying about this car. So amazing. And again, I do this every time when I go to some travel location and I choose hotels. I really hope that one day it will be the same with the hotels, that I will get really summary review which represents bads and goods in one sentence. So that's kind of things which are possible with that, but there are a lot of considerations again with filtering what those powerful systems can generate, so that we don't end up with something not what we expected.
Yeah, absolutely. Dima, thank you so much for being today with us. We're looking forward to having you back at some point. Dan, any final thoughts from your side?
No, I think.
Yes. Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, you first.
I would like to say thank you as well, and I hope to do it again soon. And give us your final thoughts for this session, and then we're going to take a short break.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was a great pleasure. I think I love how the previous speakers were addressing the topic. I love the energy, and I'm really happy that I had the opportunity to present here with you, and looking forward again to any projects you have and you're not sure, go to your Microsoft partners or to Microsoft or representative or myself, and I'll be happy to advise you if I can or find you the right resources who can advise you in your problem. Maybe it will not always be like Microsoft product which will solve this problem, but happy to chat always, because I love what's possible with those systems, and I love if, again, I can add value and share with you some experience I had for your projects that you can build something really impactful. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.